voting stuff.
From Erie's own Government Access, Channel 9, from the City Hall Council Chambers, it's time once again for the Taxpayers Hotline Show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Taxpayers Hotline. I am the host for the minute till Kaz gets here. He's at a doctor's appointment with his wife. He's going to be showing up shortly. And today I have a special guest. Carl Anderson from County Council has been kind enough to join us today. Again, if you want to call, and we've already had a couple callers, so people want to talk. The phone number is right there, 870-1284. Give us a call and let us know what's on your mind. And Carl and I are going to talk about a couple things as we go along. If you can't call, or we don't get many calls, but we encourage you to call. And Carl, thanks for coming. How are you today?
John, thanks for having me. And beautiful weather today. Everybody's up and out, moving around and making phone calls to us.
Yeah, you know, the phone's been blowing up already, but here, actually we had like 3 calls already before we came on the air. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Oh, hi. I just had a comment regarding the city and the blight on the lower east and west side. And also, it seems in some areas the blight is kind of moving up, like around 35th Street. Even up like 41st and Wayne, it seems like there's an increase in just empty houses.
Yeah.
Lost the houses, and then the mortgage companies aren't really putting the houses on the market. They'll leave them vacant, and then they'll clean them out, and then they'll be vacant for years. And I know that happened, I've seen it on the lower east and west side, that people had their homes foreclosed on, and then they just left, and the mortgage companies just leave them, and then vandals come and destroy them.
Yeah, right. It's unfortunate to what's going on, but like you did say, it has started the lower west and east side. You know, those were where the older houses are, and a lot of them rent those houses out of there. So they're not actual homeowners. And unfortunately, you know, with a lack of jobs and a different, you know, just a whole economic environment, like we've talked about before, people don't have the money to put into their houses anymore, and a lot of them are being foreclosed on. And with the market rate the way it is, I mean, no one's out there buying houses. Would you agree, Carl?
Well, it's unfortunate that we have some absentee landlords, and we need to certainly hold them more accountable. I think the city in the last several years has been putting in rules and regulations to do that, and we need to continue to do more of that. And certainly we need more reinvestment in the inner city. We need to create incentives to bring people back to the inner city to make them want to invest in the city.
Well, I think that's where the new LERTA stuff comes in, and you know, we have the new planning commission or the planning department and different things that are going on. You can't build Rome in a day. It's going to take some time, but I think, you know, we've got the people in place. You know, the fact that you're here from county council, city and the county starting to work together. I mean, that's the only way we're going to get things done and fighting the blight. You know, I think are you still there, caller?
Yeah, I'm still here.
And, you know, they are starting to tear down houses. Actually, I think they're buying the houses out of foreclosure or sheriff's sale, and then, you know, which is a wise economic decision, and the redevelopment authority is tearing them down. So there is movement on that front, and there's a lot more to do. But when you approach it, you got to take like a 2 or 3 pronged approach to solving that problem.
And it's not just about tearing the houses down. We have to make an assessment,
right,
of the value and whether or not those houses can be rehabbed,
right,
and then use them for adaptable reuse purposes and give incentives. You know, one of the things that we've talked about, and I've talked with Kaz about this, and with Councilman Bob Mursky, to begin to create an incentive to have the city employees, the police force, the fire, moving back into the city and creating in reinvestment in the city. 25 or 30 years ago, they took out the regulation that if you were a city employee, you had to live in the city. And so now city employees can live anywhere. It would be unconstitutional for them to take that away, but we can create other incentives to get people to move back into the city. Maybe it's a 10% break on their taxes. Maybe it's some type of, buying a home out of the redevelopment authority inventory, that we give them a low interest rate loan to rehab the homes, some kind of an incentive to move back into the city. And there's been talks about that happening.
Well, that's where the whole land bank thing comes into play too. I mean, not only, with the redevelopment doing their thing, but the county's going to be doing their, and the city's going to be doing their thing. I think, all you guys, like we've talked before, you guys all need to just start working together and taking a three-pronged approach on solving the problems.
Yeah, I'm very encouraged with the land bank and our opportunity to create that at the county level. Certainly there's a commission now set up, a land bank commission, that they'll be making those decisions on, how we move forward in the strategies that we use. But I think there's a great group of volunteer citizens, committed citizens from the community that are on that board, and they understand what it is to live here, to make investments here. They want to make the right decisions, and certainly there's going to be plenty of money to invested in the city. I mean, the city is 40% of the county, but 50% of the blight. Somehow there's got to be a fair number with the $1 million that we have to invest in the land bank.
Well, I had saw in the newspaper, where they had interviewed you and talked about sharing money with the county and the city. And, and I think that, just the fact that, that you guys are working together like that is a real positive step in the right direction.
Yeah, Councilman Bob Mursky brought that forward to City Council as a resolution, and he talked with the mayor and the county executive, and I had conversations with him. Of course, the county council district that I represent now, District 4, is the largest city-county district of any of the 7 council districts.
Which, for the people that are watching, which District 4, where does that encompass?
So my area is southeast Erie and the Bell Valley area, Mill Creek, but then two districts in the 2nd Ward, which stretch from 12th Street up to 18th, from State Street basically over to East Avenue area.
Okay. You still there, caller?
Yeah, I'm still here. So your district is really mixed, and you have, as far as income levels, and there's some rural, you have a little bit of everything. You have some rural area, and you also have some high poverty areas, too, in the area that you're serving. Yeah,
for sure. The one thing that's been really enlightening to me as a county council member is how diverse Erie County is. Right in my district, we have the Headwaters Park, the Conservation District. They're doing a phenomenal job out there, right off of I-90 and Pine Avenue, behind the Wendy's in the industrial park there. But that's a rural area right in the hub of all the urban sprawl area of the city and into Mill Creek, and they're talking about issues that are important to the farmers and the people, whether or not the bees are, what type of bee is coming into the community this year, and whether the woodpeckers are destroying the ash trees, and it's amazing how diverse our county is.
Well, just area alone,
just from my area, as
just
the
from
said,
12th Street to the Bell Valley area, it's 2 different worlds.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, high poverty. What about, I know Dr. Taylor at the upper room, he was able to partner, I think, with Wells Fargo, and I think they rehabbed, a house that they sold. I was wondering, and it aided the individuals that participate in his program at the upper room. Have you guys ever thought about maybe partnering, with any of the nonprofits to aid individuals maybe in rehabbing some of these blighted homes?
Yeah, I think that's going to be an issue that the Land Bank Commission takes up And so I think we'll have to wait and see, excuse me, how, how all of that plays out. But certainly the nonprofits in the community are going to continue to play a vital role, as they already play a vital role in our community, but they're going to continue to do so. And again, they're just one more aspect of the community at large working together. It's not just the elected officials. It's all of us. We're all in this together.
Well, then when you talk about the land bank, it's involving people in that neighborhood too, where they could, if you rehab a property or a house, or you tear it, then the neighbor could take that over, and then they would be responsible for the taxes, which would add to the tax roll, and then they could sell it for future development. It's like it's a rolling ball,
Right.
One thing leads to another, and then block by block we build this. It took us a long time to ruin it. This is going to take us a while to fix it. So
right, but it really, I'm trying to explain it in the simplest terms, because it really takes the economics to work to be able to make the reinvestments. And part of the problem with some of these properties that are sitting vacant is the fact that they have back taxes, they may have water and sewer liens. An individual person cannot go buy a property and have all of those liens waived. What one of the biggest benefits of the land bank will be is coming together as a community-wide government agency. They will have the ability, because they're talking large numbers, of being able to get those types of taxes and those types of liens waived. And that's what's going to make the economics work. By the local municipalities, whether it's the city of Erie or the city of Corey in regards to the countywide land bank, or the local school district, or the water or sewer authority, to be able to get those liens and the back taxes waived is the difference in many cases in the property being economically and fiscally able to be rehabbed and to make that reinvestment.
I would like to see people that had very low incomes be able to afford some of these homes, because if people go in and maybe rehab these homes or these houses and make apartments, if they're not offering like low rents, it really doesn't aid the poor people that are living in that area at the present time. It's going to bring in like maybe different people, because the poor people can't afford to live there, and then housing for them becomes worse.
Right,
no question about it. It's
right.
It becomes a vicious cycle.
Yeah, there has to be some protection for the people that are really poor living in those areas. I think they have a lot of impoverished people living on the lower east and west side.
Well, the sad part is we have to find a balance between working and continuing helping the poor while bringing in people with disposable income to support the economy. But, well, caller, thanks for calling. We got to get some other callers in. I'll get yelled at if I talk too long. So.
Okay, and thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for calling. I mean, with you, first of all, thanks for coming in. You represent the city and the county, and the fact that you're here talking, a lot of people might have some questions for you. Go ahead, caller.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey, I got a question for our county councilman there. On the community college, the education board down in Harrisburg found deficiencies. How come the public never got to know what those deficiencies are, and where is the money coming to sustain this community college after and when it's implemented?
Well, the deficiencies were...
there was 12 of them, wasn't there?
Well, there were questions that they had in... that they wanted further explanations for. So they call them deficiencies in a report, but it's actually further explanation of what the financial disclosures were. And there's a committee led by the county executive and her administration who are working with the Department of Education. They answered all of those questions. And
what were the questions? Is it on your website?
Well, no, we don't know the questions because
The exec won't tell you.
Well, no, it's that all of that is going to come out when the report comes out of the subcommittee. So when the Department of Education subcommittee report comes out, all of that will be disclosed. But for the time being, it's a negotiation between now the county being the sponsor of the community college and the administration being responsible for continuing to move it forward, and the Department of Education. So this is all, it's all legal language that they're talking about. But all of that will come out when they have their final report.
One other question real quick, then I have one for John. When Kyle Foss brought up that deal where they should form a committee to implement the gaming funds, it was turned down. And I believe you voted for the committee to handle the gaming funds. That was a travesty. I think it should be implemented fairly and not with one person or the county executive making her picks.
Well, you're talking about the grant?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's going to be voted on at the next meeting. There was some language in there that council members didn't agree upon, and so they put that off until council members could meet and talk and decide what the language should be. But I think what the final resolution that's going to be brought forward, I think will be fair across the board for all people. It's not just the county executive that decides who gets the funds. The county executive puts it in the budget.
And you voted up or down?
Well, then it comes back to council, right? And council, each council member has an opportunity to vote.
Well, here comes that good-looking guy now, and I got a question for him.
Oh, you mean the one with the face for radio? Is that what you're saying, John?
That's me.
The face for radio, right?
Me too. Hey, I'm glad that you got a hold of the Parks Department and took care of that tree branch.
It always takes a long time, John.
But you didn't do it.
Who did it?
The complaint department. The Citizens Complaint Department. I called that young man, and boy, he jumped right on it.
That's a good thing.
The big difference is that you now have an administration that has instructed their employees to listen rather than, wait around like happened in the past.
Can't hear you. You got a bad mic.
How's that, better?
Still can't hear you. You're in a hole.
What?
Sound like you're in a hole.
You want to switch seats?
No, that's okay.
We can hear you fine here. Maybe it's...
Here, we'll go this way.
Can you hear me now, John?
No, barely.
Okay, must be, let's see, who do I got?
You got a bad mic. We got to get some new stuff down there. And, you got a new mayor. Maybe we can get some equipment.
Well, the big difference now is when I complained in the past, I had to keep following up time and time again. Now there seems to be a realization that when people call, they should get a response. That's the difference that has happened in the last year.
Well, that's great. The whole thing here, Mr. Filippi tried that way back when Joe Borges' daughter, and they were doing a good job too. But it's good to see that we're getting some.
I really think you need that. I think that the problem you've always had is when I ran my department down here, I took care of my problems. You
don't get the runaround, or this department takes it, or that department, they want to pass the buck. But that young man over there, he's doing a great job, and he's got my vote of confidence, and that's hard to get.
We're going to test him because we have a lot of stuff on the back burner councilmen get frustrated too when they used to complain down here.
I imagine.
Sometimes
all I know is the sun is shining, and we're going to have a great day, and maybe the people that pay their taxes all the time, maybe we can get a break. Have a good day.
Did you have a question for me, John, I thought you said?
No, that's great.
How do you guys do, John, okay?
Bye-bye.
So far, so good, Kaz.
Well, you did go by the edict of the people.
You
did bring an elected official on.
Absolutely. you know. And I
Are you
told him,
laughing at that comment?
It's always a pleasure to be here with you guys.
go ahead, caller.
Yes, hi. I want to talk about the tax issue. About Erie has abandoned buildings and they have a lot of crime.
Okay. What about it?
Yeah, the reason why, the city doesn't have the money that they need to fix up abandoned homes and bad neighborhoods is because of the county. The county takes all the money.
How's that?
Taxes, high taxes. You have corruption within the county.
What type of corruption?
You have corruption within the county. High taxes. People pay taxes, and the county takes the taxes.
Well, the last time I paid my property taxes, the school district was the largest recipient of any of the 3 property taxes. Our county taxes are actually the least of all 3.
Okay, but you have bad schools. You have a lot of bad things that go on in schools. You have fighting. You have crime that goes on in schools. The schools, they don't have the money to stop this kind of stuff.
The funding for the schools comes through the state. The tax that we pay on property taxes is actually a separate tax that goes to the school tax. The county tax is a completely separate tax.
And the real problem with the school district is that we have a Commonwealth right now that can't decide how to fund public education properly. When I was a school board director, we got a lot more money per pupil. There's actually a case.
Too many employees.
There's actually a case now where General McLean has less students than they had the year before and gets the same amount of money, where Erie has more students than they did the year before and still gets the same amount of money. You can't have a system like that. It used to be based.
That's true.
It used to be based on how many pupils you had. There was a state average. You got the money. Then you combine charter schools with that. I know I'm going into a bad issue, but when charter schools come in and they take the money out of the budget of the school district directly.
Yeah, but people go to those different schools because of the violence that happens in the schools. Fighting, you have bad education, you have kids that graduate high school, and they don't know all the knowledge they need that a high school education would even have.
A lot of kids turn out good. The problem is that society hasn't determined what they want to do with the kids that don't fit in well. If they go to private school, they get kicked out, they wind up in public school. If we expel them, they go away for a while, they come back, they can get a court order to come back into the school district again, they might move them into home tutoring, but nobody can define the social and economic issues that have caused this problem. When you and I went to school, it was real simple. We acted up, we got hit over the head. Our parents took care of us. Now it's a whole different world.
Is that what happened?
Absolutely.
We were hit over the head too many times.
The teachers would wrap you.
That might explain some things.
You have abandoned properties in this city.
Yes, the abandoned properties are, and one of the problems we have in the city is, and it's indirectly the fault of the county, but more the state, is the fact that under Pennsylvania law, we are handcuffed in how we can tear down properties, acquire them. The whole issue on tax exempts has to be looked at. They have to give the county more problems.
People are living in.
Eminent domain.
There's no public services, no sewage, no electric in these houses, and folks are living in them.
I know, it's just
It's bad.
What really kills me is that with even on the state level, the funding is just not. They haven't recognized that cities and the Commonwealth are in trouble.
Are you saying that the state forces unfunded mandates on the
Yes,
county?
absolutely.
No way.
Well, we're fighting this issue now.
You can slide your
But
microphone.
people are paying taxes, and they're not getting what the politicians are saying that they're going to give.
Well, once we hang up, we're going to talk about some other unfunded mandates that the state's putting on the county.
Well, there's state corruption, there's state and county corruption.
I don't know if corruption is the bad term or is the proper term to use on that. Maybe mismanagement or
Mismanagement mismanagement.
Yeah, I mean, corruption is a,
Your
Call it
responsibility.
mismanagement, but mismanagement, the city gets sacrificed on mismanagement of state and county funds. The city's going to take a big loss.
See, my big problem is, and I'm glad I got my local councilman here, I find it appalling that the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the county of Erie has seen to it that Erie gets none of the gambling funds.
That's correct.
You know, what a travesty under state law, how they allowed that to happen, how the county allowed its largest incorporated government body in the county to not, you know, just because we don't touch. We're not contiguous.
yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong, but the city had our chance, and we dropped the ball.
We did. We certainly did.
We dropped it.
But when the money was awarded to the county under state law, because we would have got all the tax money, we would have got all the gambling money under the way the system was written. Under the way
What about the abandoned properties in here?
we could use that money for abandoned properties, let me tell you.
If we would have had the casino in the city, we'd be having a whole different conversation.
Here's the problem, John. It went to the county. They had a choice of what to do with the money. They
So
created
what's
that
the
authority.
council's plan to fix the issues with abandoned properties?
The land bank and
We just spoke about the land
Yeah.
bank that's being brought forward that is going to work on those blight issues, and it's reinvestments in the neighborhoods.
Is this public reinvestment, private reinvestment?
it's a little bit of both,
Yeah, it's a combination of both.
which is a positive thing. Things are starting to happen. Like we said, it's just going to take a little bit of time to get the different organizations aligned. And
Is the city going to benefit from this?
absolutely, the city's going to benefit.
I don't mean, okay, so the city's going to benefit from all this. So when's like the due date where the city can benefit from all this?
Well, the due date is now. It's happening now. The reinvestment is happening now.
Is it going to reduce taxes? Is it going to bring back people to the city?
Well, we're going to work on things to bring back people to the city, but the tax reform comes from the state, and I mean you make a really good argument because in combining this with the casino money. I mean when we were promised allowing the casinos to come in and passing the state legislature passed the laws, we were supposed to have a reduction in property taxes.
Correct.
By almost a third, by almost 30%.
And where's
guess
that at?
what? They never reduced it a dime.
No, they tell you what you want to hear, and then they do what they want to do. So I guess that could be corruption is a good word.
Does county council do that too? Tell people what they want to hear?
Well, county council does what is best for the citizens of all of Erie County.
But they just tell people a song and dance, so they actually do a good job.
Well, I guess that depends on your point of view. My point of view is we're working really hard for the people, and we're doing a good job. Some people may not think that. Some people have certain agendas, and
Is the city going to benefit from the county?
well, the city is part of the county. And I can tell you this, if people didn't realize that in the past, they realize it now with me there as a county council member and with people like Andre Horton and Fiore Leone, Kathy Dahlkamper. All of us may be a part of county government, but we all live and invest in the city of Erie. And the attitude of the city versus county mentality is gone. And that mentality, there's no question it was alive and well and used to be there, but it's not there anymore.
Okay, when that happened, was that any mismanagement on behalf of the county?
Well, I wouldn't say mismanagement. I would say it's the way in which the county invested their dollars. The county gets most of the funds that come through the county. The county is a pass-through as the largest social service agency in the community. We pass the funds to the other social service agencies.
And what's the biggest social service agency in the county?
Well, Human Services is the largest social service agency.
That would be OCY and.
I mean, it takes on such a myriad of things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the role of county government is social services.
Is the city going to do? Is the city going to do anything with the homeless population?
Well, that's a problem that we.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, sir. What would you like us to do? And I'll tell you whether we can legally.
Do you have any suggestions?
maybe have services for the homeless population, maybe help them get into housing.
We do have that.
Some of that is, see, now that's more of
that
a
is
county.
reality
Right?
for the person to pay that kind of payment every month. Maybe help the homeless population have a good quality of life for the city. Have good citizens. They're going to want to invest in their community, in the city, take pride in their city, and take pride on their housing and their day-to-day life.
Right. I think, caller, I think you make a really good point. And part of the issue is that you can't force people to do what they don't want to do. But I would agree with you that homelessness, 90% of people that are homeless are eligible for benefits that would put them in a situation. I've been involved in a nonprofit. We have a rep payee program, and we do exactly that. We make sure that people who are deserving of benefits get them, whether it's through the veterans, whether it's through Social Security. Right. A lot of the people who are homeless have emotional issues. They have dependency issues, whether it's drug or alcohol, and they choose to spend their money on those type of things.
What about mentally ill?
That's exactly what I was just saying, and those people.
That population has been forgotten in society. A lot of people in society just forgot about the mentally ill.
Right, and they need to have advocates that will make sure that they get the benefits that they deserve.
Is this something that the county's trying to do?
Well, the county has several programs that we work on, and the county is going to continue to work on programs and make them better. But again, you can't force somebody to accept the benefits. They have to be willing. So it's not.
People might not know about these benefits.
This is going to have to be the last comment.
Yeah, but it's not just a one-way street. Government doesn't solve everything. It's a two-way street. People have to want to be helped.
Yeah,
they have to come forward
to go get these benefits. What agencies exist to help people?
Right. Okay, caller, we're gonna have to cut it off because we have to get some other callers in. I'll get yelled at if.
Okay.
All right, but we will comment on that. Thanks for calling, buddy.
All right, bye. Thanks.
He brings up a good point. The mentally ill, the homeless people. There's so many out there. It's more and more. We have a problem.
Yeah, we do.
Guys, this phone has been blowing up today.
That's good, though. It's all right.
Go ahead, caller.
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good job there answering those calls.
Thank you.
And I agree with what you were telling that young fellow there that not everybody is always agreeable to being helped. They sometimes don't want that help for whatever reason. Maybe they just don't want to be tied into any government agencies that they're afraid will take control of their lives.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's how some of them feel. I do have a question, though, concerning the casino being sold, or the racetrack being sold. They're going to have to be renegotiated, a new arrangement for any of the funds or resources from that to come into the county and maybe even to the city, or is that going to have to be done differently now?
Yeah, no, none of that will change. The Churchill Downs that purchased the casino, they're coming in under Pennsylvania law, under the agreements that are already in place, and they have to continue to follow those.
Okay, I was hoping that might be the case. Well, hopefully they'll keep the funding up there. Now, the other thing was someone mentioned about community college. Is the community college still going to be partly funded by way of the casino money?
Well, it could be potentially funded by casino money, and it's going to be funded by local philanthropists. It's going to be funded through a large grant from the Erie Community Foundation.
What's that?
I'm like most of the senior citizens my income is restricted to what I have from Social Security mostly, and there's no way I can continue to pay more higher taxes, and particularly if they decide, well, we got to increase your taxes to pay for this community college now. And in light of all the colleges we have here and all the types of various education programs, not just in Erie County, but the surrounding area, that just never appeared to me like a wise decision to establish another college, particularly a community college. But so I'm not worthwhile saying I just wasn't in favor of it. But since I lost my vote on that, I figured we got to come up with some way to keep the funding there without hitting the taxpayer to pay for it.
Right. Well, do you guys mind if I answer that?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I appreciate your question, caller, and it's something that needs to be explained more to the community. People have to understand it, and they have to feel confident in the proposal that we're bringing forward. I will tell you, I'm a very strong advocate for the community college, and some of the reasons why is because we're already paying. We are all taxpayers, and we are already paying for a community college here, and we don't have one.
I agree with you there.
Yeah,
but like Chad will tell you, she and I went to college at the same time, but we funded our own money for that. We didn't go, scholarship-wise or anything like that. We worked and paid our bills, and it was what we did. We didn't have somebody. We didn't come to taxpayer to say, "Hey, I'm going to go to college. Give me some of your money." And so I feel it's. The community college idea is great, and I've talked to several family members in other states. A lot of those community colleges in states are funded by various companies down in those areas that where they train their people.
Right.
Like GE would send their people to the community college for training, and GE would fund and part of that community college that trained their people. So none of the community college was actually funded by the county or should I say the city taxpayers.
Hey, Doc.
So I don't know. It's just a little bit uncomfortable for me to think of what's going to maybe happen. Maybe I won't live long enough to have to pay any of it, but we'll see.
What's the number one? We've had calls today about poverty, homeless, blight. What's the number one way out of poverty, Doc? What's the number one way? Education.
Oh, it is. I won't deny that because Cass can tell you, he and I both continued our education levels and we did very well. I mean, I got the equivalent to a master's degree and everything. So it's a matter of, education is important and it continues. I'm always learning something new.
And it's unfortunate.
So I don't deny that, but I'm doing it on my own and there's a lot of avenues to do it, the library and everything. And of course, the trade schools around here. If you want in the trade line, that teaches you the trades. So,
right.
I just don't think.
I don't want to tie up the phone any longer. I just want to make sure you realize that there are a lot of us senior citizens. My fund when they increased my Social Security like 1%, 2%, but when the county employees get a raise, it's 6% or something, way more than what I get, and I can't afford to keep paying more for their wonderful raise when I don't get enough to raise for myself to live on. Right. So I appreciate you guys keeping that in mind, both city and county, of course. But you did a good job bringing these guys together, and if you got boxing gloves, put them on.
Thanks, Doc.
Hey, by the way, Kaz does have a hard head. I worked with him long enough to know he does have a hard head.
He's been clocked over it a couple times, so he seems to be all right. Thanks, Doc.
I said to you, Carl, the reason why I didn't support the college, I don't think they've explained it properly. I think that, when you read on TV the other day that the kids in college now want free tuition, I think the fear in my heart is that if you don't work for something a little bit on your own, like in Europe, they always point to Europe, but in Europe you're expected to produce, otherwise they bounce you. You don't get, you can't go to a party for 4
Hold on a second, caller. But those states like New York and these other states that are introducing the college bills, their populations and economics are booming. We'll talk about that in a minute. Go ahead, caller.
Where are we going to pay for it, though? That's always the question.
Go ahead, caller.
I would go ahead, but that Kaz person keeps interrupting me.
No, go ahead. You're on.
I'm kidding. It's the
That's okay.
Colorado Kid. I have to talk about something we all know and love, the viaduct.
Oh.
I'm going to just say something. You guys don't even have to respond. Just listen. It's got to go. Did anybody not realize that a couple of weeks ago in Florida, a brand new pedestrian bridge that was built fell down, and it was brand new? And
it was
not
brand
looking
new.
at the age of our
Right.
bridge saying, oh, something like that could happen. So
Right.
there needs to be a connection made that it's so old it needs to go.
Right.
The reason I say that is because I saw somebody on City Hall, the other show. I saw him come up to the mic, and first of all, they were bad-mouthing Taxpayers Hotline because that John is a terrible person.
Yeah. God forbid that she can speak the same. Her opinion's honored on her just like John.
That, for somebody to get up there and put me down after when I take my time out of my busy day to come down here just to have a show so people can call in.
But we did bring an elected official, so that's what she wanted.
Yeah, so to somebody go complain about me coming to do this show, hey, maybe, I touch some sore spots with her, but, honestly, I really don't care. I've been doing this show since Jim Thompson was on the show. He invited me on there. It's not like I say, Kaz, can I please come on the show? Jimmy, can I come on the show? They say, John, hey, we need you on the show. So if
I complain about you all the time.
Well, you do.
I've invited, different people.
What are other people complaining about? With
somebody's going to city council meetings, and I don't know.
Go ahead, caller.
Go ahead.
Well, we all know who it is, and the problem with this person is that they haven't lived here long enough to know what's going on. They're not realizing, because their main thing right now is the viaduct, and that's why I bring it up, because they're not realizing. She came up to the mic and she said, oh, well, you haven't given us a chance to raise the money. You haven't given us a chance to do this, that, and the other thing. Her not being here and living here for the last 20 years like I did, she has no idea that this happened 5 years ago. The offer was put on the table. City Council said, okay, go out, start an organization, start Kickstarters, raise some money. We'll give you the bridge, but you have to have some financial backing and responsibility. And they dropped the ball. And this person comes in 5 years later thinking, oh, you've never offered us a chance. I'm sorry, but that's horse scatology. There's no way that it wasn't offered. It was already given to the city as a chance. They said, all right, you're the leader. Go out and start an organization and make some money. Save the bridge if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, we're getting money from the state in a few years, and boom, here we get down to the time when it is time for the bridge to come down. We have the state money. It is unsafe. Yet people, these social justice activists, which are the bane of society right now, because they get on their Facebooks and they get on their MySpaces, if that even exists anymore, and they say, look, it's all my opinion, and my opinion is right, and I don't believe you, and that makes me right. And that's why I feel like the social justice is the bane of society. It's going to destroy everything, because one person gets an idea in their head, and they come up and they're like, oh, it's all about me, it's my idea, and I'm right, and you're not. They're not looking at the past, they're not looking at the facts, they're not doing any research, they're just saying because reasons, and that's horse crap. So people need to just step off of their little Facebook podiums and do some research and say, oh, look, they did offer people that 5 years ago. Okay, so it ticks me off. This is nothing about you guys. I love you guys. I've worked with all of you, and I miss you. But to see city council meetings and people calling out Taxpayers Hotline because of their opinions, fine, you're right to your opinion, but if you don't have the facts and the research, shut up and go get the facts and the research.
Sir, you want to hear something funny today?
What's that?
What that person said, well, one of the people in that group sent me a article from Mercier's College. And a young lady there, which I'm going to call because, one thing about youth, you look at the world from the time you were born. And this young lady made a comment that we built the East Side Connector to connect the affluent suburbs so the people that work in the city would have a faster way of getting out of the city.
Yeah.
Well, I can assure you that that would not make sense for the city to get involved in that. Now, if Mill Creek wanted to build that or Fairview, I could buy that theory. What she forgets is that when I was a young student at college, and that goes back to I'll say it, 1967 to 71, we were just talking about the Bayfront Highway. And that was some years ago, 30-some years ago. It has taken that long for a series of governors, governors such as Governor Ridge and Governor Thornburg and Casey, that have been real good to Erie. We had a group of 3 or 4 governors on both parties that saw the project finished. And the purpose of it was the opposite, to bring people into the city. Now, since that time, we have discovered in big cities that, building highways is not always the best answer. But the problem is, you got the road there. That's what killed McBride, the fact that you got a bridge, only a few hundred yards to east of that. You combine that with the fact that GE is down and Hammermill's down.
And all the plants right there by the bridge itself. And it overlooks a junkyard.
Right. I mean,
come on. And
95% of the cost is paid for by the state and federal government. I, as a councilman, have to sit here and say, what is best for the taxpayers of Erie, knowing that we will not take care of the bridge because we didn't take care of it in the past.
Right. All right, thanks for calling. We got to get some callers in, but we'll keep commenting.
Oh, no, I got my time. You had other people on the phone for 15 minutes. I got one more thing I want to say about
I told you.
I want to get back to
the
viaduct.
Then we'll put Carl in. Let him go ahead.
I just want to say the sharks are smelling the blood in the water. You got to flush the water out. They're saying now, because the city has been claimed by some media agency that it's the worst city in the area for certain people to live in. So what is going on now is, I guess, the New York Times picked up the viaduct story, and they're like sharks in the water. They're going and saying that the new bridge that was built, the Bayfront extension, was built to separate neighborhoods, and they're playing on fear, and they're building off of non-facts, and they're saying things that are not true. What they don't realize is that line was already there for the last 30 years. Those neighborhoods were cut off by the rail industry. The train tracks were already running through there, and the Bayfront connector is just going along the same lines. So instead of looking up the facts and doing their research, they're playing on fear, and they're going to do bad things with the media because that's what the media does. They don't know the truth. And outside of that, I'm just going to pop off. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks. John Steiner, Carl Anderson, Kaz Kwiatkowski.
And Carl's going to talk on the...
We can't even get... I wanted to talk to him about something.
I'd like to get into the viaduct after we have this call.
All right.
Hold on, hang on. This is good. Yeah. Go ahead, caller.
Hi. I called last week, and it was a lot of fun talking to you guys. And we talked about downtown and renovating downtown. And this week, we took another road trip, and it was a little road trip, and we went to Willoughby, Ohio, stopping in their little downtown area. Have you guys ever gone over there?
Yes.
Not lately, but...
My mother lived in Willoughby when she was a small child. My grandfather worked for the WPA there.
Oh, how fun.
Yes.
Anyways, we got talking with all the little, shop owners and stuff, and the little restaurants that were there, and talking to them, and they say that they get a huge number of Erie people that come shop there. And, the one thing I noticed there is they have no parking meters in their little downtown area. And I said to them, I says, why don't you have parking meters? And they said, well, we want you to come shop, stay, and spend your money. And parking meters, you have to be, pay attention to the meter and the time, and it limits your enthusiasm for our shopping district. And I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. And then I got thinking, we're going to be putting in those meters downtown, what are they? They're like 5G kind of meters where you swipe your card and it goes to the light and all that. And I know they do that in places like Tampa, Florida, which is a huge metropolitan area. We have family that lives down in Tampa. And what they do is they sell the data from the card that's swiped, so they make money off that data. And we all know, or at least probably a good majority of people know, that data is the next big oil. But don't you think that raising the parking fines and then, having people have to feed the meter and pay to shop down there, don't you think that's going to limit what's going on in our downtown? I'm really worried about our downtown.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but parking costs here compared to other cities is really low.
According to the parking authority, and I got to agree with them, they could not put the new technology in there based on, because I'm being liaison, I see their profits. They wouldn't have the money to do the upgrades. The problem, she brings up a good point, and years ago, the merchants used to offer free parking. They'd give coins to their customers. I don't know why they don't do it anymore. The problem you have in a city like Erie, ma'am, I'm not saying that we couldn't do it, because we have a lot of bars down here, because we have a lot of employees that would use the parking for their own use. It works well in a little town where the store owner tells his employee, you don't park in front of my store. That's for my customers. In Erie, you have a problem that you would have employees parking there. You would have people that would frequent certain establishments. It just, over the years, it evolved that that's the only way you could do it. I agree with you, but I think the merchants are going to have to come up with maybe a system where they offer, like, if you buy so much.
Go ahead, Carl.
That's one of the things that Downtown Partnership
I was just about to say that.
Okay.
is supposed to work on.
You still there, ma'am?
Yes, I'm listening.
Yeah, because, when, like Mr. Buchanan and them, when I talked to him, I think they're trying to work on things like that where, they used to do in the past. When I was a young man working at the parking ramp, it wasn't unusual for people to take their parking ticket over to Boston store and get it validated if you did some business there. If you bought something, you got it, and I understand it's just that in the city you have to control parking because otherwise,
if you had no meters on the streets,
it would get out of hand.
People that
they'd park there all day
downtown
and work.
Wouldn't use the parking ramps.
They'd leave.
Make the money on the parking ramps. The parking authority would.
And the cars would be parked there all day.
Yeah.
And then businesses, you couldn't get into the businesses to support them.
More.
It would be worse.
It does work good in small communities where they can, jump on it quick.
Right. Well, if there's no residential, like if they did that in Erie, people there would never be any parking spots to support the businesses that we're trying to reduce the parking rates for.
Right. But for the caller, it's a double-edged sword because you want parking meters there to make people have the conscientious effort to move their vehicles. They're there for a reason. They feed the meter, they move, or they get a ticket. But the double-edged sword is if the parking meter wasn't there, they would park there all day.
Ma'am, just the people alone that work at City Hall and the courthouse,
they park out there all the time.
They would we'd have no parking spots for any merchants.
Right. So they actually create parking spots for merchants.
In the past,
because they force people to continue
in and out.
I remember when it was cheaper to take a ticket than it was to pay the parking.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Thanks, Cass.
Are we going to do that change with the parking meters then?
Pardon?
She said they're working on the changes.
Yes, they are. We had a little slowdown with the previous administration, but the new administration is pushing forward with the rules, and the parking authority is they plan to roll it out shortly in front of the courthouse to show the public how this is going to work. Actually, it's going to help you because now you don't have an excuse for getting a parking ticket. If you'll have the ability to use your phone or your credit card to, put.
Can you still feed the meters if you wanted to?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if the meters are going to have it or the kiosk.
Okay. Right.
They haven't rolled that out yet.
Yeah. It's, Erie's, we're just getting up to the 21st. Erie, we're about 25 years behind the time.
Lancaster has them. Lancaster, a little community.
Lancaster has them?
Yeah.
We're about 25 years behind the times. But we're a little slow, but we're coming around. But we might have to take one more call. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks for calling. We appreciate you calling.
Hey, keep calling because you got good ideas.
Yeah, she does. Thanks for calling. Thank you.
This woman's right on the button, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I tried. We went a couple minutes. She's in tune.
You want to talk about the McBride, right?
Well, yeah, I wanted to make a comment on the last caller with the McBride Viaduct, and I want to keep it away from personalities. You know, we have.
Tell them to hold.
Hold on 1 second, caller.
We want new people in our community. We welcome new people in our community, and we want them to assimilate into our community, bring their ideas, and make changes and participate in what we're doing. But the issue with the McBride Viaduct is an issue that has passed its time. And I wish and I would encourage all of the people that have been involved in that issue, if they would take their energies and their enthusiasm and their interest for what they've been working so hard on and put that in a project that is vitally important to the community and something that we can all turn into a positive thing, such as the community college or so many other issues that we could talk about, they could really help make a positive change and impact. The negativity of what's been created out of the McBride Viaduct issue for a bridge that is past its time, that is no longer viable to be saved, misinformation being spread around, their own expert report that came in, which changed, I think, one of the votes on the council after that report on city council. You know, it's past its time, but, you know, there's two other bridges on the east side, the Ordox Bridge and the Franklin Avenue Bridge. And I haven't, this is the first time I'm saying this publicly. I've talked to you about it and with other elected officials, that we need to start focusing our efforts on saving the other bridges on the east side that are still in a condition that they can be rehabbed, they can be saved. But if we neglect them to save a bridge that it's past its time, we're going to lose all of the bridges on the east side. And the Franklin Avenue Bridge is the most vital link from the southeast Erie to the inner city Erie of any bridge that we could talk about.
And there is no bridge beside it.
And no, there's not a bridge anywhere near it. And nobody has been talking about that as an issue. And it's time that we start talking about it as a priority concern for the east side instead of ignoring it.
All right, go ahead, caller. Sorry for the interruption.
Just one question. Is it legal to have chickens in the city of Erie?
No.
You might want to, if you turn your TV down, we can hear the feedback.
Are you still there, sir?
Okay, I just want to know if you could have chickens, if you could raise chickens in the city.
Not legally, unless you got a special, you have to be designated, zoning had to be properly zoned for rural use, and then you'd have to have permission. No, it is not acceptable. In fact, I know there's a few right now. There's one on Parade Street. There's a couple on 19th Street tracks near there. You have a couple you want to complain about?
No, I don't want to complain. I just want to know if it was legal.
No, we ruled out farm animals. Unfortunately, you know, there are people that are getting away with it. Why? Do you want to get some?
I want some chicken, but...
Ma'am, did you want to get some, or...?
No, I just know where there is some.
Yeah, if you want to talk to me off the air, I've been trying to, I don't want to be mean about it, but, you know, there's a reason why we don't want farm animals in the city.
Right.
And the only exception is if you're a zoo or an exhibition. And that means, like, you know, well, you're a zoo, that's a good example. Or if you brought in a circus or something, that's an exhibition. But or unless you got land, which is hard to find, that would be zoned farming.
A lot of immigrants.
Okay.
Yeah, they are bringing it.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah.
A lot of immigrants, they have chickens.
Oh, I know they do.
Yeah.
There's some on Parade Street, not far from St. Martin Center.
Yeah, there's chickens around town.
All you have to do is roll down your window. Right. The only trouble is when you try to get around to get somebody to do it. Maybe the new mayor now. His people have a different attitude. Yeah. The other people didn't want to, you know, I turn them in.
Well, you know, it seems like things are a lot different now, and that's a good thing. Sometimes, you know, change, you know, when you have turnover and change, it's a good thing. We've got new county council people.
Well, that's why, I'm glad you brought Carl on, because when people complain, I said, there was this, like I can tell you from the EMTA issue, that was very contentious. And it happened because we didn't converse, okay? Right. We had people writing letters to the editor that didn't even bother talking to city council.
See, that's the problem.
They didn't recognize how governments work. I don't tell Carl what to do, but if I got a question about the county, I'm going to ask him as my representative.
Right.
We didn't get the same courtesy. I think for us to go forward, as a member of COG, we talk about this all the time. We joke. I joke about how I'm going to take over Harbor Creek. That drives Dean Pepicel and them nuts. But, in an indirect way, we have to start learning to. Our biggest problem is when you go downstate, you look at Bethlehem and Allentown. Just their casino was an idea of, whoever won was going to take care of the other one.
Right.
Up here, it's like, what do I get?
This is going to be our last caller. Go ahead, caller, make it quick. We got about 30 seconds.
Okay, I just want to know, people noticed the Erie Times with their billing. My bill went up from $78 to $104 for 13 weeks.
And you got to buy those magazines, right?
How can you get rid of them?
I don't think I looked at it. I don't know if you can. I'm going to call because my mother, I don't get the paper, but my mother does, and she does not want those inserts.
You can. I live in an apartment building, so there's hope, but they're charging you $2 now to bill, $4 for Thanksgiving edition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
For the Butler Bugle.
Better start looking at their
Butler
bills.
Bugle. And then you got to buy, like this gentleman says, I looked at it because we pay my mother's, it comes to our house. And my mother's getting charged for this edition and that. My mother don't care about that edition. Yeah, right. First of all, she doesn't care about some of that stuff, because at her age, she just wants to read the dang paper.
Well, it's a bad business move on the part of the Times News because they're going to lose more subscribers.
Yeah, because they won't let you back out of that. I'm saying, I don't think you have to buy them if it's in the machine. I don't know.
Not separately, no.
The machine doesn't have inserts, I don't think.
Right.
Yeah, it's fine if you want like me. In the old days, I wanted the TV guide and they took it out. Now I don't care because I put my cable TV on, the guide's right on there. I don't need to have you.
I forgot about the old TV guides. Hey, caller, we're out of time, but thanks for calling. Call next week.
All right.
Thanks.
I wanted to say something about, we can stay on put on hold if you want.
Okay.
I think they did a lot of damage by going to the New York Times. The more that you bring up that Erie's a bad town, you reinforce that image. When you go out east, and you've been there, they don't even know about us. So why bring it up and say, oh, Erie, I never thought about it. They're that bad, and here we're trying to tell people what a nice community is to come up here, 4 seasons, to hunt, to fish, we got a mall, we got other things, we got beaches, and what are they doing? They're pointing out all the negatives. And you know what? I don't get it, We're talking about something that's gone on for 11 years, Right. There were decisions made 11 years ago.
And then they turn it into a racial issue.
Yeah,
to me, it's more of a jobless issue. There's no jobs. You're going to have poverty. You're going to have blight. You're going to have drugs, crime. Those are all underneath the fact that there's no economic and job opportunity.
Carl brings up a good point. You want to build a bridge? Build one about a mile and a half down the road the other direction. Push that on the Commonwealth and say, hey, how about another access point?
Right.
Find out where we can do one. But, I'm glad that hopefully, that we got a new, with new council over there. Yeah. Hopefully there'll be more line of communication. Because I think going forward, we got a lot. I met somebody yesterday. I don't want to tell his name. I don't have his permission. He was one of the leaders in that's investing money. And I thanked him. I said, you know what? It's nice that finally private sectors got involved. When people get mad about Erie Insurance, look over there. You got 7-story steel going up, and I'm going 1,200 more jobs. When people want this town to change, it's going to change by making it more attractive.
You get these. They're called cave citizens. Citizens against virtually everything. And that's what's keeping this community down. Hey, on that note, John Steiner, Carl Anderson.
You want to say anything before you go?
I just want to say with the two of you guys, keep up the good work that you're doing here.
Well, I want to invite you.
It is a positive. I mean, there's positive things that are happening here.
I want to invite you back. Okay.
We didn't even get a chance to talk about what I wanted to talk to him about. The phone never stopped.
We'll have to talk about it another time.
Well, you know what? There'll be a time when I have like things I got to be out of town for.
Yeah.
I'll be,
Yeah.
She won an elected official. We got one.
Right.
So, we'll have you and Carl come on sometime again.
Right. Well, Cass, this is,
And, you can, I think it's important that people see the other governments. I've always wanted to open this up to.
You've had some, we need some, we'll get Frank Petrunger from the school board up here.
Well,
we'll have like a little powwow.
I don't think people understand it.
We'll have everyone talking together?
Communication.
Well, look at
amongst government entities. It's a new concept.
How many people think that the city is not part of the county? They don't realize, what the role of each government is. Right. And when you talk about the school board, they got a lot of questions, but no one's ever had the guts to come up here. Maybe Frank will.
Yeah, Frank, I already talked to him about it.
Because there are things you can and cannot do when people that run for office, they go, I'm going to do this. Sometimes you can't.
Right.
You can't. You're not permitted.
Right. Well, John, Carl, Cass, thanks for watching. Mike, hit the tunes.
Mike the engineer. There you go.
Hit it, baby.
Oh, you guys had a while.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching the Taxpayers Hotline Show on Erie's own Government Access, Channel 9.